I'm Yuri.
I'm Jacob.
And we're going for a drive. ...2021 Porsche 911.
Targa with launch control.
Horsepower and torque.
379 horsepower, 331 pound-feet of torque from a twin-turbo 3-liter flat six.
And this is the 4, not the 4S.
Yes, because we already drove the Carrera 4S, which is slightly faster than this one.
And this will also be heavier because it's a Targa and not just a coupe.
That's right.
And then the 4 designates this as an all-wheel drive model, not a just rear-wheel drive model.
Yes, because you can't get the Targa in rear-wheel drive, only all-wheel. But you can get it in manual, and we have the PDK one.
Manual.
Yeah.
Okay, and we actually drove a newer 911 manual on the track. It was a Carrera S, so rear-wheel drive, and that was actually really fun. But you need to have the regular 911s in traction PSM Sport, or else it really bogs down on turns compared to what a 911 GT car or a GT Boxster or Cayman would.
Yeah, GT cars are definitely calibrated totally differently, but Porsche's system in general is very good. It still lets a lot of like slip angle, but on the track, we just found that it bogged down in regular mode.
Yeah, one mode off helps a lot, and it's still pretty safe.
And if you're enjoying this video and you've watched some of our other Porsche reviews, subscribe.
Yeah, because it's a lot harder for us to get cars in Canada than it is for outlets in the States. So the higher our number, the sooner we can get newer cars and even more affordable cars too.
Let's get these rookie numbers up. What's so special about the Targa?
It doesn't have a top, but it's also not a full convertible, and it's also not a full hardtop convertible. It's just its own special little thing.
It's a really cool car. It's basically super low commitment convertible, which is definitely my jam.
And I think all this stuff happened because back in the day in America, you couldn't have a convertible, so you had to do weird workarounds, and that's why there's like T-tops and Targas and stuff.
Yeah, something like that.
I really like the looks. I think my favorite part is having that silver bar that goes all the way across the top.
Yeah, that's definitely what makes it special, but I think you can get it in other colors as well. I believe black.
And I first fell in love with it when I was filming for Motoring TV, and I filmed Graham Fletcher driving one of these. I thought it was like the best looking 911 I had ever seen.
Yeah, and I really like how this looks in yellow as well. It's such a cool looking car with that silver bar.
There's so many cool colors you can get. You can also get green, which I would get, but I would definitely get a darker gray instead of this blue, which I don't really like this blue.
And we're definitely talking about the standard colors, not the super expensive paint to sample, which is like $12,000 to $14,000.
Yeah, because there's a lot of colors available on the website.
And it's super nice that we actually have this on probably the last nicest day of the year. It's like almost 30 degrees out, and for you Americans, that's really hot.
It's October, and it should be a lot colder, almost the end of October.
Yeah, so it's really nice to have like a half commitment convertible for this. It's perfect.
But I mean, I drive my Prowler in the winter. You just need a gloves and a hat, and you're good.
That's why I don't want to wear gloves and a hat. This is great.
And then another thing I really love about the looks is that huge bubble back window that when you pull the top off, it moves the whole thing to the back, and the whole operation of the top is amazing. I love how there's these little flaps that move out of the way so the bars can lock in and then close. It's such an impressive looking mechanical process.
And it works really well at 100 kilometers an hour on the highway. Just kidding, you have to be completely parked, otherwise this whole system would probably just fly off and get destroyed.
And then how quiet is it with the Targa top all the way up?
So when I was driving on the highway, I genuinely forgot that I was in a Targa top because it is a fabric piece, and I thought I was in a coupe.
Okay, and then the rest of the looks of this, regular 992, 911, nothing really special besides the fact that this is a Euro spec, and then we've got like different clear headlights and stuff on the side.
And then we have the big old fat booty because all the Porsches have the wide body now, so it just looks great.
Yeah, we got that light that goes across. What I really like is seeing that Targa badge on the back, because I haven't really seen that on any of the Porsches yet, and I really like badges on cars.
And then you also have it on the silver bar on the side, so yeah, this is just a great looking car.
But trying to film it on the silver in like good sun is so hard because that thing reflects so much. And then moving on to the front, still the same 992, but what I really like is that these headlights make a perfect X when you're running full headlights on mode, and then when you're doing that, you've got your taillights on all the time. This is one of the few vehicles that looks better with headlights all the way on instead of just DRLs.
Yeah, I agree.
And since we got to track these before, I'll give it just a little gentle boot through cliche, and I still feel faster than every car, and the steering feels perfect, and nothing is weird.
It's just such a great car to drive.
But off that initial launch and general speed, this does feel a tiny bit slower than the Carrera 4S we previously drove.
Yeah, it's like almost a full second slower to 100, but when you're just driving it around and you don't drive them back to back, it doesn't really feel like that. I still think this is really fast, and if you want to save yourself some money versus the S, I think you're just fine going with this one.
Yeah, but I feel like we're spoiled because we've driven so many great ones like the Turbo S, the Carrera 4S, a lot of GT cars. If I was going to get one in automatic, which I'm not because I can't afford a Porsche, I would get the fastest one, but in manual, a slower one I think would be even better.
Yeah, that's why I have no issues with this, and I know we're spoiled, but this amount of power is fantastic. And Porsche pretty much never ever screws up wheels, and this is no exception. These RS Spyders look awesome.
Yeah, the style of the wheel feels a little bit sharper than the previous gen would, kind of like we had on the GT4 Cayman. So then what would be the Continental recommended tire for a Targa?
The Extreme Contact Sport.
And you could probably get some Viking Contact 7s for this too if you want to do some winter driving like Porsche let us do a couple years ago.
Ooh, that was fun.
But probably not in a Targa.
Yeah.
So then looks-wise, is this the best looking non-GT 911? So we're competing with the Turbo S, the Aero kit on the 911 we drove on the track, the 4S, and a Cabriolet.
I think this is definitely up there, kind of tied with the Aero kit one because that's the closest one to a current GT car because there are no GT cars in this generation yet. I'm
conflicted because I love the Aero kit, but then I also love the Targa. But then the one with the Aero kit you can get in rear wheel drive where this you can't. But I think looks wise, I'm a Targa kind of guy.
But then the Turbo also has the super fat intakes on the side, and I really like that on the Turbo S. So
I like Targa more than the Turbo S for sure.
Yeah,
even though the Turbo S looks wild.
Turbo S is insane. Well, there you go. At least you have choices.
Leave a comment below.
Let us know.
And before you drive, I want to ask a question to the audience on Instagram. What is the better song for ripping around in a 911? I think it's Beady Body Beady Boo by Bubbles, the song from Super Troopers. What do you think it was?
And I definitely think it's the Blade soundtrack.
So let us know. Go to Instagram. You'll see the video there and watch them both because we can't play those songs on YouTube.
No, we can't. Launch control. Man, that's a solid kick in the back.
That initial kick is really hard, but then the 4S is where you'd really feel it keep going.
Yeah,
at
it's
the very
after,
end.
Exactly. The initial thing is almost the same with most Porsche models, but that extra that's where you pay for the S.
And before we get into the driving part, is there buffeting? Is there wind noise? What do you think of this convertible top?
There's a little bit, but that's to be expected. It's definitely not close to as bad as the Miata RF, which is the only other thing that's kind of similar to this that we've driven. That was way worse.
And then we have our windows down a little bit because when we had them both up, we felt a little bit more buffeting.
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
But it's overall very good.
Exactly, because you can have the windows up, down, it's fantastic. So let's talk about engine response first. I'm just going to downshift and floor it. Tiny, tiny bit of lag, and then you're off. It's so responsive, and this 8-speed PDK is in a class of its own, basically all the time. Porsche never screws up their transmissions.
Yeah, and in automatic, if you floor it, it responds really quick, and you see that needle just fly.
And we put it in Sport Plus, which we do have the same drive modes as we have in basically every other Porsche. I've been driving this in Sport Plus with the suspension in the softer mode because I actually just prefer that, but at Cliche Corner, we can definitely send it with the stiffer mode. And it wants to oversteer a little bit, but because this is the 4, it doesn't want to oversteer as much as the rear-wheel drive one, obviously, but it just pulls you through no problem.
So would you prefer an all-wheel drive model or a rear-wheel drive model, hypothetically, if rear-wheel drive was available?
Hypothetically, if I had to drive this car year-round, I'd go all-wheel. If I had a summer one, I'd 100% go rear-wheel.
Oh man, I had so much more fun in the rear-wheel drive 911s when we were at the Porsche track day, so I would still go rear.
And like you said earlier, the steering is fantastic. It just feels so natural. The 992 generation has really perfected Porsche steering in terms of the electronic generation.
I didn't have any issues with the 991, so I'm good with it either way.
And even though this is all-wheel drive, it is very, very heavily rear biased because you can actually see it in your gauge cluster, and there's like basically the tiniest sliver of front-wheel drive all the time. It's mostly rear-wheel drive, which is the way that I love my all-wheel drive vehicles. And to get the most out of it, you definitely have to have it in PSM Sport, just to get that back end just a little bit more out.
But I feel like a BMW really sticks out their rear end a lot more on all-wheel drive systems than Porsche does.
Yeah, for sure. Porsche prioritizes speed. I think BMW prioritizes fun and gooningness.
Yeah, freaking sending it.
Just send her.
Just send it.
And one thing we haven't talked about at all yet was the exhaust sound. What do you think of it?
Kind of quiet from in here, but all Porsches kind of sound weird like that.
Yeah, so we do have the Sport package, which includes the Sport exhaust, and it doesn't sound that sporty. Like, if there's a quieter one than this, I wouldn't want it.
And this one doesn't have any backfires or anything in any of the modes. I much preferred the sound of the Carrera T's we drove, where you'd have backfire only in Sport.
Yeah, well, you can thank European regulations for that. No more backfires, no more fun.
Old cars still exist, and they'll still be for sale.
Exactly, but the one thing that you do get that's kind of cool is the turbo whooshes, especially with the top down. So let's see if our mics pick it up, probably not, but just a little bit here and there.
I don't like it because it's not like a good whoosh, it's just like kind of an annoying whistle.
And when I say European regulations, what that means is now there's these gas particulate filters, so they really heavily affect the exhaust sound.
Environment.
Exhaust sound.
So now moving on to the interior, same old 992 interior we've grown used to. There's really nothing different besides the Targa-ness of it.
Yeah, exactly. So our gauges are still the same. We still do have our center tack. The outside gauges, you still can't see through the steering wheel because of the position of them. They are decently customizable. Our infotainment is exactly the same. However, this is a European spec, so we don't have any Sirius XM satellite radio. So this one doesn't rewind, but the other 992 that we drove did rewind.
Yeah, and none of the new generation 911s or Porsches. You can add your favorites to your hotkey on your steering wheel. Can someone at Porsche please call me? Hit me up on LinkedIn, you're a Territion. Let's talk, let's figure it out. I've tried reaching out to everyone, it doesn't work. I want to make this work.
And someone at Porsche also enable Android Auto, please.
Okay, so we don't have Android Auto, but we have Apple CarPlay, and it is also wireless Apple CarPlay, but unlike the Taycans, which have the new infotainments, this one's really small and little. Any basketball players, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I want to know if your fingers can press those buttons or not if you drive a 911.
Yo, when you have your phone plugged in, I can barely touch them, and I'm not even a basketball player.
Not even close.
And the way this one's optioned, we have this nice brushed steel where you can rest your hand to touch the infotainment, so I really like how this brushed steel looks.
Yeah, the whole color layout in here is really nice. It really matches the blue exterior, but I would avoid that and go something else crazy on the outside and then not stick with white. I think like a creamier color. Is there a red interior maybe?
Probably. And then we have our same gloss black buttons. We do have a bunch of other gloss black, which isn't buttons. We have our bronze shaver shifter, and I've totally gotten used to it. I don't mind it at all.
And then we got a removable cup holder, which you can also option out for like a coin tray or a cigarette lighter.
And the grips are still too tight, just like they were in all the other 992s.
But what's nice about this is when you have the top down, there's no wind coming up trying to kick out an empty cup.
That is true.
Where in my Prowler, if I'm driving that around with the top down, the way the wind comes up, if my cup is empty, it'll pop it right out and just flip it around the interior.
Wait, do you drive a Prowler?
I drive a Prowler with a cup that has an issue compared to this cup holder.
But you drive a Prowler?
And I own one too.
Oh, nice. And then we also have an extra cup holder on the side for the passenger. And let's check the visors.
3, 2, 1.
Fail.
Aw, come on. And then box test we can't do because it's kind of a hatch, but it's not really. I feel like there's some storage back there, but you definitely can't drop the top if you put anything there for storage.
Yeah, and just like the other 992s we tested, you can fit one box in the front.
And we got a back seat that's not very usable, and it can drop down as a ledge, which is nice.
Simulated backseat, I'd call it.
And then back to the infotainment real quick. We have a front camera, reverse camera, no 360 camera, but we have a 360 radar. And the reverse camera is very warpy. We've driven a lot of other cars recently that are so much less warpy than this really expensive 911.
And these seats are really comfortable. We have the 18-way adjustable seats.
Yep, very comfortable, no issues. I think I definitely like normal Porsche seats over the carbon fiber buckets.
Yeah, I guess so. They're just way more comfortable.
Maybe my back is getting worse.
And the overall driving experience, just like every other Porsche, is so fantastic. The driving position, every time I get in one of these, it's just so refined. That's the first thing I think of. It just feels so solid, nothing feels cheap. I love driving these things.
Oh, and what's cool about this model compared to the American models that we usually drive, we can actually change a bunch of the safety settings and other car settings in the infotainment while driving.
Yeah, so I guess Europe values certain safety things, but not others.
Yeah, like you have to have the triangle in the trunk, but you can touch the infotainment while driving or something.
And you gotta have a quiet exhaust, and then you gotta have flatter front ends for pedestrians, but you can definitely be distracted by pressing every option you want.
And then we got those stupid bumpers that come out here that they don't get over there.
In the back.
And then they get dash cams and we don't.
Yeah, regulations are weird.
Weird. So I said it was expensive. Let's get to the price.
Well, it starts at a measly $136,000.
Canadian.
And this one is optioned out to $184,940.
That's too much, man.
That's a full BMW in options.
Yeah.
Like an entry-level BMW.
I mean, this car is just like so expensive. It's for super rich people. It is really cool, and I get if you want one, you should get it because Targas are awesome.
This is a great car. It's fantastic to drive. It's definitely unique because of the Targa experience. And I mean, just check a little bit less boxes and save yourself some.
I don't think people spending $180,000 care about saving money.
They probably don't, especially the ones that pick this Burmeister sound system, which is amazing.
So let us know in the comments below, what would you take? The Targa Turbo S, 911 Carrera 4S, or a Cabriolet?
Yeah, if money was no object, because those are all at very different price points.
And then watch all these other Porsche reviews because we do a ton of them. Thank you very much for watching.